everyone, and welcome to the Jeff Bullis Show. Today I have with me Oshri Cohen. Now, Oshri is a fractional CTO from Montreal, Canada. That doesn't mean he's good at fractions, but I'm sure he is. We'll learn more about what it is. But Oshri is an expert technologist in more languages, frameworks, architectures, and technologies than he cares to count. He's originally was born in Israel, but from Moroccan descendants, and that's why he doesn't look very Canadian to me, but that's fine, and that makes him... We think he's actually a criminal trying to escape from international intrigue, but anyway, that's fine. Sorry, ignore that. It's got nothing to do with Oshri at all, but it's what we talked about before we got on here. So he is an executive at multiple startups and ex-founder of his own custom development shop. He is disrupting the popular thought that startups need a full-time CTO, and we know how much they cost, and could save on the average $400,000 per year in direct technical leadership costs through the use of a fractional CTO, which is his primary business. Oshri is also disrupting the technical recruiting business through use of recruiters that are also engineers and can evaluate candidates on a deep technical level. And as we know, a lot of entrepreneurs are shit at technical stuff. They've got the vision, but yeah. So apart from that, Oshri is also involved in what he calls a dev agency representation service, where he acts as a lawyer of sorts for companies that need to hire outsourced development. And he'll let us know about some juicy horror stories, I'm sure, about that. He loves fractional CTO world, allows him to work in healthcare one moment and logistics another. After 23 years in technology, Oshri has developed the ability to spot industry-spanning business problems from a long way away. So he's developed a reputation as a problem solver, leading many startups and Fortune 100 founders and CEOs to keep him around as their technical right hand. Oshri, welcome to the show, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. I feel very welcome. By the way, can I hire you to explain to my mother what I do? Because I just heard my own story and I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. She doesn't understand what I do.
No, well, my mother my mum and dad didn't understand what I did. I tried to explain it slowly, but then I did it in reverse and they still didn't get it. So anyway, I
guess as long as we're not living in their basement.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. They maybe thought I'm just traveling the world, just messing around, really, which is essentially what I would, quite like doing. So it's good. So Oshri, let's go right back to, the future. Where did this all start? Where did this interest in tech, where you essentially, from what you've told me, is that you taught yourself to program at the age of 13. Yeah. And still did all the things that a 13-year-old does. And we know what teenagers are. They're just playing really naughty and get into mischief. So, yeah, exactly. So we won't go there just yet. We might go there later just for a bit of fun. We should maybe do this one day with a gin and tonic and a beer. That would be actually more fun as well. So
when I visit Australia with my family, how about that? I'll send you an email.
So, Oshri, what got you intrigued and doing coding at 13?
Oh my, okay. So this is an interest one. Vigilantism. Is that a good answer? Or should I, and I stop right there and I don't give you any more suspense until like episode 4, season 2. Vigilantism. So back then when I was 13, the dark web, there was only the dark web, really. What web? Google was barely a thing, right? I don't think they were even making any money. They're barely a startup. We used Alta Vista. I was gonna say Al Jazeera, Alta Vista.
Alta Vista, right? I remember that. Yep, the old
old school,
browser.
Old school, right?
Yep.
So what does a 13-year-old kid from a poor family do when he wants video games and movies? He downloads them illegally. Obviously, that's because. And back then we didn't see that as illegal. It's like, hey, somebody left a copy of it over there. I guess I'm gonna pick it up. Surprise, surprise. A 13-year-old had loose morals back then. I have much better morals now, but back then, wasn't that interesting, right? You had your Napster and you had everything, right? So
you did.
But as it turns out, people that were making that content available were masqueraded as a real content, like a video game or a movie that you wanted to watch with the actual title and whatnot, but they would put child pornography. And that was weird. That was messed up. With my friends, I went to the police about it, right? And they didn't understand what the hell I was talking about.
Right.
Like, when you go on the internet, what's a computer? I'm like, what do we do with this? Right? So I learned to code because I wanted to write a virus. I knew about viruses. I was sleuthing all over the internet all the time, to the wee hours of the night. And it just kept on absorbing and absorbing all this information. I learned to write a virus that would destroy their machines.
Right.
And I would do that. And that's how actually I learned how to code. I started with C or C++. I don't remember what I started with. But that's how I started, because I learned how to write a virus to destroy physical property, I guess. Statute of limitations is gone on that one, so it's fine. It's all good.
So
Yeah.
that obviously that wasn't, it was a hobby that back then. And
Yeah, it was a hobby. It lasted, we attacked maybe about 100, 150 people that
yeah,
did that on the dark web. And then we gave it up. And it's not our job. It was just fun.
yeah,
For us, we saw it as fun. And that's it. And from there I kept on learning how to code, how to build websites. It was not as amazing as it is now. You didn't have half the technology,
yeah.
right? And right after high school, I started to work. That's it. Self-taught. I started to work. At a small video content startup, right? For a few years. Then I worked at a consulting firm. I had a knack for business. I had finished a business degree at the local university, at McGill University at night. And after working for the consulting firm, which taught me the business of technology, which was interesting,
Yeah.
I went off and started my custom development shop, and then got back to work, and then my another business, get back to work and another business, and so on and so forth. And just that trajectory. It was definitely not linear.
Yeah. So tell us, you you saw something that was a terrible event at was a Montreal school, Canadian school.
Yeah,
Tell us
yeah. There
about
was a
that story. And
So yeah, that was the genesis of my first startup, my first real product startup. Basically, there was a shooter at a local university, a local college, college. It's like it's pre-university, if you for folks who don't have colleges.
mhm.
It's called a CJEP. The person was unhinged, I guess. Whatever their reasoning is irrelevant. But he shot up a school. I don't remember how many fatalities occurred, but I had family in that school at that time. Thankfully, they were unscathed. And we tried to call the school. We tried to continuously, and we couldn't. The phone systems were literally shut down because there was too much traffic.
Yep.
And you got to realize this doesn't happen in Canada, right? I think we have 2 school shootings ever in the history of Canada at this point. I might be wrong, but this is not a yearly or monthly occurrence. If this happens once a decade, it's a travesty.
Yep.
Right? It's a travesty regardless, but still, it's not something just like that.
Yep.
It's not endemic in our society, at least. So I came up with a solution after researching why I wasn't able to call anyone, because the phone systems were down, because there's too much traffic. But we could still text message, and messaging would trickle in, and the systems would try to continually try to send the message itself. So even if you sent it and they couldn't now, they would get it eventually, right? So I built this startup, this whole server infrastructure, and so I had indebted myself, bought close to $100,000 worth of equipment even before I had a client, because, well, I was a little green on the business side. I didn't really know what was going on yet. Being my first startup ever, I was self-funded entirely from revenue from my consulting business, right? That I built custom software for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky enough to get a few contracts, right? Mm-hmm. Except the problem was the contracts were not signed yet. It's a bit of a problem. Just a tiny little problem.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's a tiny little problem is because the Canadian, or the Quebec government, my province, had decided to pull funding from every public education institution. And even though parents would be footing the bill for my product, right? Because I presented them a business model and a payment model of how they would pay for it, right? And it would cost only $1 a month per parent. That's it. Like, sorry, $1 per semester per parent. It was nothing. It was peanuts.
Right. Yeah.
Right. They wouldn't even feel it. They wouldn't even know what's going on. Because of that, and because of the optics of buying things at a point of austerity where funding is being pulled and so on, all my contracts got pulled before they were signed. They were basically ready to go because I had the solution ready within months of this event, and it was still fresh in people's minds.
Wow. Yeah. So it's yeah, dealing with government's a challenge. I have sold products.
Yeah.
I sold personal computers to the government in the 1980s when the PC revolution took off. So I've dealt with government a lot, and it can be challenging. And sometimes it feels like a daycare for adults, really. But that's okay.
That's about right. That's actually about right. That's actually, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a daycare for adults. It's exactly what it is.
Anyway, we've managed to piss off most governments around the world right there and right then.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what did you do next? You went back to work as an employee. Is that step back a bit?
No, I ran that. No, that one failed. But thankfully, my other business was going strong. My custom software development business was going strong. Had many clients, and so on and so forth. And I had a couple of other failed products that I built that failed to launch. One can be closely related to airtable.com, right?
Yeah.
What they built is what I built. I built literally that, but back in 2005,
Yeah.
when nobody understood what that was. Nobody even understood why they would use a spreadsheet and database lookalike on the internet. Why would they ever do that? There's no reason for it, right? Well, there is clearly a reason, because Airtable exists. And they got funding, and I have no idea if they're profitable, but who knows, right?
Yep.
There's a business there.
Yep.
So I had built that, tried to push it, nothing worked. And so shut that down. And now we're creeping up to 2008, right?
Yep.
We're keeping up to 2008. The financial crash happens. I have to go back to work. And have to is the operative word here.
Yes.
You know, you're independent for long enough, you start to enjoy that lifestyle. You enjoy the money, you enjoy the lifestyle, the freedom, the decision-making power, you know? And so, you know, you get used to it. But I came back to work as a lead architect at one company, and then a director of software development at another, VP, CTO, VP, director again, and back and forth, and so on and so forth. And my last job was 3 years ago. My last full-time employment was 3 years ago. Yeah.
Right.
That's when I went fractional.
Right. So what was the word fractional has been around a while, fractional CFOs, fractional CTO, not more CFOs, isn't it, than fractional CTOs? And also the reality is that today, with what we're using right now, the technology, you know, Zoom, you know, instant communication, we've got Slack, we've got Trello, we've got collaborative software, we've got, you know, there's a whole bunch of things. And in your world too, I'm sure being able to write code is a lot easier than it was, you know, 25 years ago.
Oh, so very, very different from when it was even 10 years ago.
Yes.
And then 15 years ago. It changes every 5 years. There's an entire revolution happening.
Yeah.
Right. Apparently, we're not supposed to. We don't need to learn how to code anymore. If you're going to listen to the CEO of NVIDIA, you don't need to learn how to code anymore. AI is going to do it for you. Okay, buddy. Let's calm down. You're successful, but let's calm down a little.
That's right. Step back a bit, dude. Yep. So
yeah.
So where the idea for doing fractional, where did that come from? Was it you working for a client and they only wanted you part-time, and you could, so how did that happen?
So throughout all of the roles that I held at startups and even at Fortune 500s, right? Of all of those roles that I've held, I realized that, first of all, they were almost all the same, right? In what you did. And very often, the higher up you go, almost the less you have to do. It's very, very interesting, right? How much strategy do you really need to do every single day? No. It's half an hour on a Monday, the first Monday of the quarter. Here's our strategy for the next quarter. That's more of a tactic, really, barely. Right? Strategy is much longer term than that. And that's what I realized. And then I looked at CTO job descriptions because I said, like, okay, well, maybe I'll look for another CTO role if this full fractional thing doesn't work out, right? And that just reinforced the fact that nobody knows what the heck a CTO does. Some people see a CTO as a developer, others see a CTO as a manager, as a director, as a very few see a CTO as a visionary, as a business visionary that's supposed to bring in business ideas as well, right? And help grow the business that way. And so I saw that in myself, and I saw that I wouldn't be happy in any of these roles because I would have to be the developer there, and then I would have to be the leader as well, right? At the same time, because they're expecting, the surgeon to be the chef, to be the janitor, to be the nurse, the assistant, and the guy and the security guard. They kind of jumbled up the CTO role into every job possible, right? And it's not supposed to be that. After further analysis and thoughts, I realized that the CTO role evolves over 4 generations of a business. Okay. Now, in your small business, a generation could be you've reached from 1 million to 10 million. That's a nice little generation, right? Then from 10 to 100, 100 to a billion, right? 3-4 generations, right? Depending on the growth trajectory of the business. Your traditional business could take 50 years to get there, 100 years to get there.
Yep.
But a startup is very different. A startup, that generation can happen within 6 months. That CTO you hired to do the development for you is now has to be managing 6 months later. How do you know you hired the right person? Because you hired based on one requirement, you have a completely different requirement. So you went from creative to management, which is a very difficult transition to make because not everyone's happy doing that. And then from management to leadership, because now you've got managers to manage, right? Because your team has grown from, 3 developers in a corner to a team of 10 to a team of 30, because now you're getting funding, right? In a very, very short period of time. Now, Jeff, what do you think? How many people do you think can make that transition that quickly and be happy to do so?
It's be very few.
That's the problem. It's very, very few. And so I came up with this concept. I didn't come up with a fractional CTO concept. It's a very European thing, the fractional CTO concept. It wasn't really in North America, right? We like to own stuff. We don't like to rent and borrow.
Yep.
Right. And so I came up with this program, this product as a service, that is my fractional CTO business, right? I would come into the company, I would reset the foundation, correct almost every problem that there is. Then I would have evolved the company. I would stay with them to evolve their processes, their technology for where they want to be. Oh, you want to be what? $1 billion company? Okay. But first, let's become $1 million company first. Let's evolve you to that point. And then we'll evolve you to $100 million one, right?
Yep.
And then help them grow into that situation. And so I would come in, I would lead engineering, I would lead technology, I would work with every department, right? I would put in what needs to be put in, the systems, the processes. I would train the people, all so that I could get fired. That's my favorite thing. When I tell a client, a prospective clients, like, how do you work? Well, I'm with you 8 to 12 months. If, with the goal of being fired, either I fire myself because I'm no longer needed, or you fire me because I didn't do a good job. One of those two things is going to happen. I'd rather be the latter, right? That I'm not needed. That's the key. That's the key of a fractional. They come in, they fix, and they GTF out.
So the challenge you suppose is that a CTO is a little bit like a black box. The founder doesn't really know what you're doing except what he sees at the end, which is a functioning piece of software, for example. Is that correct?
Something like that. But if the CEO is doing that, that's a really bad idea. right? Under 100 employees, the founder, the CEO, the president has to be knee deep in every operation until there's VPs in there to handle that are subject matter experts in that stage of the company.
Yep.
So if they don't know anything about tech, that's a really bad idea. That's a dangerous precedent, right? And so no, you need to be there at all times unless you trust the CTO, to the ends of the earth. It's your business at the end of the day, or unless they're your co-founder, at which point, yeah, you can let them do their thing while you grow the business. But in any event, it's a team effort. It's a team effort.
So that's quite often does happen, isn't it? Like co-founders of an organization, rather tech, you've got a tech co-founder and then you've got a visionary co-founder more. So someone's really in the weeds and the other one's actually more visionary. Because you don't want both being visionaries and you don't want them both being tech.
Yes. Now, both can be tech as long as they take different concentrations.
Yeah.
Right. But you got to pick your technical co-founder really, really carefully. If you pick a technical co-founder because you need someone to code, right, for free, make sure they can grow into the role that they need to grow into.
Yeah.
Because that's akin to getting married because you want your house cleaned.
Yep.
Right? It's like, that's what I need. I choose you. You good with broom. Come here. Yep. That's not a really good reason, because how often will you need that to go on? You need someone that can grow with you. It's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
Especially with technology, because more often than not, technology needs you to be hands-on. Are you a hands-on CTO? I've been asked many times. I'm like, yeah, I'm hands-on, but I shouldn't be.
So if someone's looking to hire a fractional CTO, what should the approach be? Because you've seen horror stories, you've seen great stories, maybe. Tell us about the process of hiring and finding a good fractional CTO.
You find one that has business acumen. That's the thing. Okay. Ego is completely left out of the conversation entirely. And if they talk to you tech first, you have the wrong person right from the get-go.
Yep.
They should not be talking tech. Tech is irrelevant to a CTO. I know it's kind of funny because it's Chief Technology Officer.
Yeah.
Right. But it should be irrelevant. Whatever technology there is, we can use it. We can build with it. You have to be pragmatic, and they have to know that they're serving business. Right. That's the thing. Now, a fractional CTO cannot do everything themselves. It's not possible. It's just 2 hours a day. But Oshri, what can you do 2 hours a day when that a CTO can't do it 8 hours a day? Right? I get this a lot. Because if people think that's what's going to happen with a fractional CTO, they're getting the wrong person to begin with.
Yep.
And so what I tell them is, in 2 hours, I can train people and tell them what they need to do, because everybody is intelligent. Everybody has a skill. Everybody is smart in their own way. You just have to find what they're smart about and push them in that direction. So there's a lot of coaching and there's a lot of direction. This is the strategy, but you tell me if it's the right strategy. Team of developers that have worked on this for the last 3 years and me coming in after a month. Right. Do I have it right? I have no idea. I think I do based on my experience, but you have to tell me. And then we have a continuing conversation that involves the team. But what happens with that is the team evolves as well. They're like, oh, we didn't think about it this way. We didn't think about it that way. Let me research. Let me take a look. Let me do this. Let me do that. And then eventually they figure it out, right? A fractional CTO is supposed to make themselves irrelevant.
Yes.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Your job is to make yourself get fired, basically, because you've done your job.
Yeah.
So in the world of coding and technology and software, what are some of the tools that you use today that to help with? Obviously, there's got to be collaboration. You're going to be working with, developers maybe that are full-time in the business, or maybe they might be part-time. They might be, guns for hire, whatever. But what sort of tools do you use to manage the process and systems for software development as a CTO, fractional CTO?
I'm a minimalist when it comes to tools.
Yeah.
Right. There's not too many. I've managed developers, 100 developers with bare minimal tools. You don't need all these crazy project management tools and whatnot, because I simplify how software development happens at any company,
Mm.
right? You may have 100 developers, but it's really the complexity of about 10 developers, because I'm going to get a group of 10 working together on a particular module, whatever it may be, and they're completely independent from everybody else, even though they're building the same product, right? So we kind of simplify it to the point where the development team manages itself to a certain extent, right? To a certain extent, not entirely. So yeah, so I'm a very minimalist in terms of issue tracking, right? The tasks that you're supposed to work on, right? As close as possible to the developer. So some people will use a product like Jira or ClickUp. I'm sure you've heard of ClickUp, right? We'll use whatever system is closest to the code. So usually GitHub issues or GitLab issues or whatever it may be. Very, very, very close to the code, because I don't need my developers to start opening 16 windows to figure out what they're supposed to work on, right? I want to maximize the amount of time that the developers are working, but also give them enough time to be creative. So what I do is I tell my development team and my clients, and they're always flabbergasted at the concept, right, of no deadlines. There are no deadlines. There's time caps, but no deadlines. I'm not going to tell you need to do this in 2 weeks, because because I have no idea how complicated the code base will be. Even though I'll be the CTO of the company, doesn't mean I read every single line of code, right? Doesn't mean that, if somebody asks me what's the timeline, I don't know what the due date will be or is, because that's not how we operate. Because if you force someone to work within a time box and say you have to finish it by then, they're going to try and finish it as quickly as possible. And in order to do that, quality suffers almost every time. Because I'm not gauged on the quality, I'm gauged on my ability to deliver on time. So what I do instead is I tell my clients, going forward, no task will ever be given if it cannot be completed in 40 hours or less. That's it. And we expect one developer to finish one task every week in 40 hours.
Right.
That's it. That's simple, right? And the definition of done here is it's in production. It's been deployed. It's been pushed out, right? It's been accepted. Maybe not deployed, but at least accepted back into the core code.
Right.
And so when that happens, you have a minimum capacity that you have 100 developers. That means you can issue 100 tasks every week. Okay, that tells me something. Very rarely will it be 100. It'll probably be 150, 180, even 190, right? Because people are working much faster than you expect, but you give them a minimum they need to adhere to. Everything else above that is gravy. They want to do that. They want to show the quality work, the innovative, because now they have the time to do so. So even if a task takes 10 hours, they might spend 30 hours on it to do it properly and to do it cleanly. That's the thing. And so it's really interesting how you can let creativity fly this way.
So tell us about some horror stories and some success stories that you've been involved with. Let's start with some horror stories first. You've walked into a company, and obviously they're going to be nameless, but and what have you discovered, and how did you solve it?
I discovered that the CTO was sitting in a closet, doing no work whatsoever. All right. That's a horror story. That's an extreme horror story, but I'll give you another one less extreme afterwards. Doing no work whatsoever, just sitting there playing games for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, because they couldn't fire him, because he was a co-founder, and so in his contract he had to have the title of CTO. So technically the CTO did nothing. They prevented him from doing any work, but they couldn't ban him from the office, because it's his office, it's his property, he's part owner, right? And when they sued him, when they fired him and he sued them, the judge said as long as he shows up to work, you still have to pay him. So I had to step in and be the fractional CTO. Right? Yes. And it took me 4 months to undo the mess that he created, right? And make it completely irrelevant that you wouldn't even need a CTO. I stayed with that company for 8 months. That's it. That's as far as it goes. It didn't take very, very long. Because I treated every developer as an intelligent being. And I told them, this is what you need to do. And they say, I didn't know, or they didn't know how to do it, I would sit and explain it to them, and then I'd say, go study. I give you 2 days. Go figure it out. I don't care. You're smart. Go read. Don't do any code for the 2 days. Just go figure it out. Right? This whole concept of developers learning new tricks. I know it's very weird. If you take a look at job descriptions, it's as if no one can learn a new skill. You need to know specifically this, and that's it.
Yep.
So so that's one horror story, right? That's one horror story. Another horror story is somebody hired me to coach the CTO, right? Turns out he was firefighting all day long. He was just fixing bugs, but without fixing them, just correcting the mistakes that happened because of bugs. And it made him feel happy, so he didn't really correct the issues. He just liked what he was doing. But he was collecting $350,000 a year.
Right.
Right? And managing a team of 5. And I'm like, but like an intern can do what he's doing. What do you mean? An intern can do this. What is this? Right? So, so I coached him and whatnot, and he ended up quitting his job because he wasn't happy with my changes.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't happy with being coached. He had an ego problem, clearly, because if you have a problem with being coached, you have an emotional intelligence issue.
Yes.
I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's it. Those are the 2 major horror stories with fractional CTO that I've encountered.
So what are some of the success stories you've had with walking in and helping companies achieve the revenue with a finished project, whether it's a minimal viable product, for example, which is tossed around a lot, isn't it? In other words, launching a piece of software to see if the concept works. So what are some of the success stories you've been involved with in that area?
So I don't believe in MVPs, or the way they're called. They're actually called right now is MLPs, minimally loved product. I think MLP or something like that.
MLP is a minimal loved product or something. I think that's what it is. In other words,
something like that.
Yeah,
we come up with weird terms because
they sound good.
Someone at a startup that hit some revenue milestone said something. There you go.
Yeah.
Netflix came out with microservices, and then everybody started chiming back and repeating it like parrots. Microservices, this and that.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in those, because an MVP implies you're just going to throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to throw it away. You're going to evolve it from an MVP. Mm-hmm. And so I came into a company and I saw how they were coding, and they didn't care, because they assumed the code was going to be thrown away, and as soon as they'd get funding, they would just rebuild it. And even the founders thought this way. And I explained to them, I'm like, that's not how things work. Right? You don't just throw away the code. What, you're going to pause feature development for how long? How long did you expect rewriting would take? Oh, it'll take a couple of weeks. No, it'll take you 6 months to rewrite everything from scratch. That's 6 months that you're not adding new features, that you're not fixing bugs, that you're not doing anything. So in reality, you would have to have a team that's constantly maintaining the current product while a team that's rebuilding. That's a lot of money. You got 10 developers on each side now. That's $1 million at least, easy. If not 2 million, for what? For zero value. Yeah. So what we do is, instead we evolve it, and we make small changes and evolve it and evolve it and evolve it. And what I did is I recreated the foundation of their application with their team, of their product, right? That would allow them to scale as needed. And that's exactly where you want to be. You want to be at a point where I'm growing, throw a credit card at AWS, increase server capacity, continue growing, and so on and so forth. That's the point where I got them. And it's really easy to do that. I mean, it's a joke, right? The fact that people don't do that more often. I'm not going to give you my secret sauce because, well, got to sell, right? I'm in business. Come on. So that's the thing. That's the important bit, right? And I did that. They realized that within 6 months it took to incrementally improve the foundation, that most of the bugs that they had disappeared because the foundation was stronger. They were able to code and deliver much faster. Yep. Right? Much faster. And everyone was generally happier because they weren't working on something they knew they would throw away. They had pride, which if you're working with pride, you have your mental health and culture and motivation improves. Everything improves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
So there's one last topic I want to cover before we wrap it up is the impact of AI in terms of, NVIDIA's CEO is going, we don't need developers anymore, which you're calling bullshit on that, which I would totally agree with. So what's the impact of AI for companies and also for developers and programmers and in writing code? And are we going to see an acceleration in creating solutions, technical solutions because of AI? I'd be interested in your views on AI's role in the software and technology industry, especially when you're involved in as as fractional CTO.
So AI is a force multiplier. Okay, that's a military term, right?
Mm-hmm.
You inject an individual into a team and you make them better,
mm-hmm.
right? You attach whatever resource and you make them better. So AI is a force multiplier. And it's a force multiplier of human intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
If you're dumb, it's going to make you dumber. That's the reality. It does go both ways. If you ask stupid questions, it's going to give you a stupid answer. I mean, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
If you're smart and you know what you know, and you have good and strong foundational knowledge, AI will triple, quadruple your capacity to produce good work.
Yeah.
I use ChatGPT and AI tools every single day. Yes, I still code for myself. I have my own projects, my own products that I'm building in between clients, but that's what I'm doing, right? And so the thing is that with AI is we've seen these AI systems that will write an entire application for you. Yeah, okay, go back home. It's not that easy, right? The proper use of AI is write me a blurb, just write me a paragraph. I'm talking about this. Just get me started. Great, excellent, right? For code, write me a function that does this and this and this and that and this. Oh, excellent, great. That's what I got. That's all I need. Perfect, right? Now I'm going to take that. I'm going to copy it into my code. I'm going to rewrite it because it didn't write it properly, right? To make sense for me, but it's helped me because I already knew what I wanted. And so I did it. If I didn't know what I want and it did it for me, how would I know it was good?
Can't.
So you still need developers. You still need classically trained developers, and you will still need classically trained developers for many years to come.
Yes. Yeah, early on, about the 12 months ago, there was a test done between some fashion designers at creating a design, and they just did it for a bit of fun internally in the company, and the chief designer was competing with everyone else because there's a bunch of designers, and the chief designer came up with a much better product because they actually asked better questions and better prompts. So I'd be interested in your thoughts on the importance of prompt engineering and asking better questions but have more detail, because the better the question, the better the answer. I'd be interested in your thoughts on the role of prompt engineering.
Yeah, so prompt engineering is going to go away as quickly as it came.
Right.
That's kind of the thing with prompt engineering, right? It's an intermediary technical term. While AI is getting better, you have to kind of feed it a little bit more.
Yes.
Right? Because I can tell you, hey, draw me an image like in the style of Rembrandt. It'll do it. Or draw me a picture in a canvas by paint with blotches and blah, 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 blah. And all of these things, it'll do the same thing. Right? So with large language models, they're going to understand what humans want much more accurately as it evolves. And now it's evolving at a ridiculous rate. Every year we're going to see major improvements. I mean, ChatGPT came out last year? In 2023 it came out, and up until now, better a year and some later, we have way more AI businesses. We have way more AI tools out there. We have way more everything. That's the thing, right? So so yeah, it's fascinating.
Mm, yeah. And how often are you using AI to help you code? In other words, amplify your intelligence instead of amplifying your dumbness, which you have.
Well, sometimes I feel dumb because I can't remember, how to do your basic data operation in a language. And believe it or not, we Google this all the time. I don't care how good you are. You don't remember how to manipulate dates in JavaScript or Python. Nobody ever remembers. So like,
Yeah,
how do I do this again? I forgot again,
yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
So instead, you ask ChatGPT, hey, I need you to create me a timer function, blah, 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 blah. And it
right.
does it for you because I know what to ask for, because I
Mhm.
know what I want.
Yep,
And very rarely will you copy it verbatim, copy
yep,
paste. That never happens. That
yep,
never, ever, ever happens,
yep,
right? It'll happen if you see code that just doesn't make any bloody sense, that with no style or anything like that.
yep,
But that won't happen now.
yep. So one final question I ask all my guests is, um, what brings, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do every day that would bring you deep joy you know, that you
I
just
would
love to do,
I would have a farm,
right?
and I would digitize the heck out of that farm. I would have IoT everywhere. I would be building machines all day long. I'd be writing code that monitors everything because I am lazy, but I want to get into a business that is very, very hard.
Yeah.
So I will be the only farmer that works 3 hours a day. That's the idea, Clearly, I know nothing about farming, and I'm probably insulted a couple of farmers right there and then who listen to this.
Yeah, well, I've got a very uh, good mate who came out of the technology industry, and his wife had inherited a farm from her father, and quite a big one. And he's used technology everywhere, down to watering systems. So, he's taken his context and put it into the technology context and put it into the farm, and now runs a very efficient operation. So there you go. Maybe you need to, but then you just got to buy the farm first. So there you go.
I don't know what's real estate prices in Australia, because in Canada it's ridiculous. I wouldn't buy a farm here. We have winter, you
Well,
know.
well, what's happening with farms in Australia is, and anywhere right around the world, especially places with a lot of land, is that we're getting the industrialization of farming, which basically is adding technology and scale to farms that are. And in Australia, we've got farms the size of small European countries because we've got the land. But um, yeah, how long's a piece of string? Basically, a farm can be, 5 acres, 100 acres, 6,000 acres.
Yeah,
We could go to
yeah. I'm not.
hectares.
You know what? I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in growing good food, but not working very hard for it. That's it. That's all I. You know, how much money does one need in life? $200,000 a year, 300,000 a year. That's it to live a very comfortable life. A couple of vacations, a
Exactly.
nice house. What
And
else do you
that's
need?
and that is a very good statement because I think we need, as humans, especially, you know, we both live in very highly developed countries, very wealthy countries, and how much is enough?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we've got to continue to ask each other and ourselves every day, don't we?
Yep.
So, Oshri, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat, mate, and thank you for your time and sharing your stories, war stories, and look forward to seeing you for a beer in Sydney, Australia at some stage when you are doing your fractional CTO work while you travel. Is that the aim?
That is the aim. I'm homeschooling my kids, and that's it. So that's what's going down.
Cool. So, how do people contact you if they want to make an inquiry?
So my firm is redcorner.io. I'm the one who's going to be answering your emails. I'm not that big that I need a salesperson yet, but hopefully one day, soon enough. And that's it.
Okay, so it's Oshri at redcorner.com. Is that what it is?
At .io, redcorner.io.
Red quarter or red corner?
Redcorner.io, because .com is how can I say, .com is a movie from MGM, Red Corner.
Okay. Okay.
No, I had to go with .io. What can I tell you?
So
I like the red corner. It's from boxing. You know, in the red corner you got.
right, okay. So I thought maybe your job was to try and get people out of a red corner because you are the fractional CTO to save them.
No, you're in the red corner because the fighter is never alone, right? That's the thing. The fighter has an entire team. The nutritionist, the therapist,
Okay.
the physical therapist, the coach, the jabbing coach, right? You've got everyone in your corner to help you out.
And that's called the red corner, as in the color red.
Yeah,
Cool.
exactly.
I didn't know that. All right. Thanks, Oshri. It's been a blast, mate. And enjoy what's left of your day in Montreal. Was that where you are, isn't it? I think.
Yes, exactly.
And thank you for sharing your weather. I will pass that on. And but it might be quite different tomorrow. So that's the reality.
Who knows? All right.
All right, buddy. Have a great evening and look forward to catching up in real life.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.